Alright everybody, we are back. I'm always touching my headphones for some reason. Every time I always say, you know, introduce us, but just whatever. I've noticed that. But anyways, we're back for another week of our deep dive series. And this week we're going to be doing skills and augments. So, it might be a little dry for some people, but I think, there's a lot to because I mean your skills are what you pretty much use, right? So, um, and augments and how they're going to affect your spells and how we kind of went over it last week, how they're going to be kind of more cosmetic, but they are going to change the gameplay too. For instance, really quick example again is if you're a fighter and you rush, you won't physically run. If you take the mage aspect, you won't physically run to your target, you'll blink to your target. Um, but anyways, introduce our lovely Missy.
Hi, everybody.
So Missy, what are you, I've been meaning to always start like this, but what are you planning on getting out of today for skills and augments? Like what are you most excited or wanting to know?
Mage skills,
Mage skills?
summoner skills, maybe.
Yeah, well, I know from what I've seen, they still haven't actually given us actual summoner skills, sadly. I think it's mage, ranger, tank, and I think that's about it so far. So hopefully we start getting a little bit more on especially summoner, because I know I'm looking really forward to that. Um, so we'll definitely see if there's anything else, but I know it's going to be going over like character movements, blocking, action combat, um, a lot of different things. So yeah, I say let's get into it. So let me close this window. Okay. All right. So skills, Missy. I say
All right, here we go.
let's do it.
All right, let's do it. Okay, players receive skill points as they level. These can be used to level up skills, increase their rank, within their active, passive, or combat weapon skill trees. It will not be possible to max all skills in a skill tree. In terms of skill progression, players can choose to go wide and get a number of different abilities, or go deep into a few specific abilities. Players are able to reset and reallocate their skill points. Making active skills capable of receiving additional skill point allocations and unlocking additional features, so that from a player agency standpoint, it's going to be up to you whether or not you want to be more diversive, but less depth, wider and not taller in some of these skill choices. Or if you want to be very, very tall, that's going to be something that is up to the player in that regard.
Okay. Is there? I guess
Over to the right.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so Alpha 1, these are the early preview skills. This is where players allocate skill points into either their active skills, their passive abilities, which can augment their usage of weapons and armors and health regeneration, and passive stats and stuff like that. But on the weapon side of things, that's where you will spec into certain types of procs based off of weapon groupings. So we've talked a little bit about this in the past. If you have a dagger, daggers might have a chance to proc a bleed on your weapon attack, and that would synergize with an active skills ability, like, let's say, backstab, that does additional damage if the target is under a bleed effect. Now, we have said in the past that players will be able to allocate skill points into their active skills that are more geared towards either action combat or tab targeting.
Yep. I don't know. We'll definitely be going into that. I pulled up. If anyone's missed that development update, Stephen did show the combat and the difference between action combat and tab targeting. So we'll definitely take a look at that. So scrolling down here, active skills. So active skills. So players can build their characters with active skills they want in their action bar. The number of skills on the action bar will be contained. It says fewer than 30. There will be an option to include multiple hotbars, action bars. For example, one fighter will be different from another based on the active skills they have chosen. Through skill choice, players can customize their combat experience to focus on tab-targeted skills, action-targeted skills, or a mix of both. So that's pretty cool. So you could actually, depending upon how you're choosing it, you could either be like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy, or you could be like BDO and Guild Wars 2. ESO.
Tab, 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 tab,
So,
tab, tab.
so speaking of that, Missy, how would you go about it? Being that you've now played.
I was just saying it. Tab, 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 tab.
You're gonna be tab
I'm a
target.
tabber. I'm a tabber.
But
I am a tabber.
You really love BDO though.
I know. Yeah. I don't know.
You have this. It's probably something you have to fill, right? You have to fill out your character fill, especially as a range.
I have to play the game first and see how tab targeting works. I do both. Sometimes I'll like click with the mouse and do it. Sometimes I tab. Depends on how the game plays, I guess. I just have to see how that's going to work and what's going to be the best way to do it.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like I said, gotta take the car out for a drive, see if you like it.
Exactly.
Okay, so players are not given skills as they level up. They must choose what skills they take. Okay, so I guess if you, and that I'm taking from that is when you get level 10, you're not going to be rewarded a flame spell. You actually have to choose that flame spell. Okay, so there's no spell book requiring memorization. I guess there will be multiple hotbars that you will obviously have available because you're going to have consumables. You're going to have active skills and whatnot, but the number of active skills are not going to overwhelm necessarily the character and be irrelevant, especially at certain stages. So that's pretty good, because then I will say this, that even like Final Fantasy 14, they've definitely, I know at the very end of the day, like a Dragoon or even like a ninja, I feel like, you know, you're only really using like, you're mainly pressing like 3 or 4 buttons, but for the most part though, there's a lot more buttons you have to press, you know. So hopefully, and I mean, and looking at his picture right here, you know, that's definitely not a lot. That's almost kind of, and this is definitely not the final view of a UI here. This is very basic. We're testing out the skills UI, even the characters themselves. But I still love how the gear looks, very detailed. You can at least see that.
I was just looking at them like, they look so good.
Right, definitely. But I mean, as far as your skills go, it looks like he's definitely a tank. But I mean, that's not bad for 9. So you have your basic attack. I'm pretty sure that's what that is. And then 1, 2, 3, 4. And I think if you're action based, you know, that should be click, click, click. You know, each time you click your mouse, you should be attacking. And then these would just be, almost really reminds me of Guild Wars 2. And I know, Missy, I've barely introduced you into Guild Wars 2. So.
Not my favorite.
Well, we barely just started it, though, like I said.
I know, but it was still kind of.
Yeah. Well, it's a map completionist game, so you have to go and complete all the map. Oh, right. So, primary skills. Primary skills class abilities are based on a player's archetype. I said it right. Aha.
I was waiting.
Players can personalize their primary skills with augmentation from a secondary archetype. So that's what we're talking about, is like if you're a fighter and you rush, instead of a physical rush, if you took on the mage aspect as a secondary archetype for your class, I think it was like a spellmaster or spell sword or something like that. I can't remember the actual name of it was. That instead of a rush, you would be blinking to that target, for example. The design behind augments is not to just change the flavor that it reflects, so that it reflects the secondary archetype, but it also fundamentally changes the core components of a skill. So, yeah, like I said, it's still going to do the same thing, but just flashier, right? Or blinkier. Each secondary archetype offers 4 different schools of augmentation. Each augment school affects the primary archetype's skills in different ways. For example, a mage offers teleportation and the elemental schools of augments. These augments will affect a fighter's primary skills differently than a cleric's. Each augmentation has a level requirement and number of skill points required to activate it. There's going to be a certain threshold at which you can no longer augment your active abilities based on the decisions you've augmented previous abilities. So you'll have to pick and choose which ones you want to apply the augments towards, and certainly augments will have more expensive required on the skill point side. So it looks like you're definitely going to have a lot of, decently tough choices, depending on what you want, but
you can change those secondaries out.
Yeah, I think
if you don't like something, you can change them quite easily. Not your primary, but your secondary, yes.
Yeah, they're talking about like a quest line or something like that you would do to kind of switch or something like that. They haven't solidified that process of switching your secondary, but they said it will. If Steven had his full way, he would say no. Your choice was your choice.
People don't like that.
Nope. Choosing the same primary and secondary archetype increases focus on that archetype. So if you want to be the mage's mage, an archmage, I think is what it was, right? An archwizard or an archmage?
Archmage.
Archmage, then you would do mage.
Archmage, actually.
Archmage, yeah. Augments to primary skills will fundamentally change the way the ability works, adapting what the ability once did to incorporate the identity of the secondary archetype. The progression system for augments is very similar to the class progression system, which I think we get into progression and all that here a little bit later down the line. So I know that'll be pretty interesting to go into on how we actually will progress our characters. Changing the augments on your skills will require you to go to an NPC in a village node or higher. That's what we were kind of talking about. Some spell colors and general effects change based on augments. Active skills could look totally different after an augment gets applied.